welcome back to Follow Focus, everyone. I am Cameron, this is Brian, and we are
Hi.
coming at you from two brand new computers, which we are very excited about. And in hindsight, it probably would have been smarter to wait to set those up until after we recorded today's episode, because Brian has been waiting on me for a while I was transferring all of my.
It's fine.
Yeah, you were having fun with it too.
Yeah, I was enjoying myself over here.
Yeah. Especially because you are now rocking. So you went from what was the specs on your Air, your MacBook Air?
It was an M2 Air with 8 gigs of RAM and like a 512 storage or something like that. It's pretty trash.
I mean, it's a lovely computer if you're just doing like regular, like you're doing web browsing, you're doing email, you're throwing a PowerPoint presentation together or something.
Or DJing.
Or DJing, sure. Yeah. That can that thing can play Spotify with the best of them. Absolutely.
Hey, DJing is not just Spotify.
That is true. It can also do what's the app? What is the other like app that you use? What is the DJing
Serato.
app? Serato.
Yes.
It's like Serrano.
Yeah, just one letter off.
It's just one letter off from
that makes sense.
A nice pepper. But yeah, so you have gone from that to now, and my old machine, just for other context, was an M1 Pro, an M1 MacBook Pro. Not the lowest tier that you could get, but like mid tier. I forget what exactly it was, because it's weird how it's not as obvious as like, oh, it's 2.4 gigahertz, it's 2.8 gigahertz, or like it's an i5, it's an i9. It's like how many CPU cores you have, and then there's how many GPU cores you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of specs, really. A lot of different options and things that you can have with each level. Not as much with the Air, but when you start getting into the MacBook Pro and the Studios and all that kind of stuff, it gets serious. Like you can change a lot of things. I think, what is it for the Pro Max like we have now? Spoiler. We can have, is it 128 gigs of RAM?
Hold on, let me look that
pull
up.
it up. This is just because that's awesome. Like it's for a laptop.
Absolutely insane.
For a laptop. Like,
so what we ended up getting it's the base M3 MacBook Pro 16-inch. So it's the M3 Max chip, but it's the like base of the Max chip.
Yeah. 30 gigs of RAM. 1 terabyte. 36, yeah.
36, yeah.
A terabyte of storage,
So
16-inch. Don't forget about that.
Yeah, very important to say. Well, and actually that was important because we did a lot of research on these things before we.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this for a long time, and finally we were like, okay, let's sit down, let's figure it out. And what we found, what I found was that there's actually, if you look at the 14-inch and the 16-inch laptops compared to each other, if you get like the same specs in each one, like the same storage, processor, memory, all that stuff, there's only like a $200 difference between the 14-inch and the 16-inch.
Yeah.
So it's not that much considering you get the extra screen real estate. It's bigger, it's heavier. But it's still pretty good. And the thing that I saw that I thought was really interesting was you get a bigger battery, so it's got slightly better battery life, and it's got a bigger thermal envelope, so it actually runs better in terms of heat. Which is, it's nice.
Yeah, it's definitely beneficial for what we do, that's for sure.
For sure. You can get up to 128 gigs of memory, which is insane.
Which, like, my PC had 64, and that was like totally overkill.
Oh yeah, I think where we are now, which is 36 gigs, I think that is a very nice for a like professional workstation type thing. I think that's like the perfect sweet spot, because I had 8 gigs in my old M1 Pro, and honestly that was, we'll see. I haven't like done anything crazy with this. Literally this machine is like 5 minutes out of the box and like it's like still breathing its first breaths now that I've transferred all my data to it.
Literally.
So like I can say it runs, it runs a web browser great.
I was gonna say it is running Arc, so
yeah, it is running. This may be just like a placebo effect, but it feels like the Adobe Creative Cloud app is a little bit snappier because that thing always ran really slow for me.
that's just because you had a trash laptop. My M2 Air was just cooked it up.
Oh yeah. Oh, I believe that it cooked.
Oh, it cooked. That's for sure.
How hot did that thing get when you were editing 6 KB raw files on?
It didn't. It just crashed.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah. So it was definitely not the. I mean, there's a reason that we're upgrading. That we upgraded.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a huge upgrade for you. Like,
which I went from my crazy PC rig to the M2 Air, which I already had been using the M2 Air, so it wasn't like a full like hard cold turkey transition into using the Air.
mm-hmm.
So it's not like I really noticed a performance difference between the two.
Yeah,
because I used them for their own individual purposes. I had my PC mainly for like gaming and like all that kind of stuff, and
Sure.
obviously, Apple and gaming don't really go together.
Yep.
So I didn't really have the direct comparison of a gaming rig, but going from the Air to this is probably going to be like, wow, what a step up.
It's going to be night and day, yeah. And for me, I think it's going to be like afternoon and morning as a difference. Like there's going to be, I'm still going like 2 generations of chip plus like an insane number of cores and way more memory. Because I was hitting, Premiere's a memory hungry beast. The whole Adobe suite is. So being able to feed it more memory, and actually After Effects, I would run into, I ran out of memory using After Effects a lot on my old machine.
What? How much did you have?
I believe it was 8, I think.
You only had 8?
I think,
I only had 8.
You know what, hold on. Maybe it was 16.
It has to be more.
I happen to have the other one right here. Maybe it was 16. Okay, it was 16.
Okay. I was going to say, I don't know if they base modeled 8 in the pros.
No, you're right. The more I said it, the more I was like, that seems really low for a pro.
Mine was 8.
Yours was 8, mine was 16. But even with 16, After Effects would chew that up and be like, please, sir, I'd like some more.
From all the stuff that I remember researching, I have a huge IT background. I know all the ins and outs of computers and PC and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
32 gigs of RAM is like more than any person ever needs, unless you're doing something special like we are, right?
Yeah.
Video editing.
36. Not 32, 36.
36, yeah.
Which is funny, because that's...
Well, no, I'm just saying 32 in general.
Sure.
Because
why is it 36? Because
Apple wanted to be different, because it goes 8, 16, 24, 32, 64. Like, those are the normal numbers. 128.
Yeah.
512. Yeah. Like, yeah. So Apple wanted to be the oddball, of course.
You can get 48. You can get...
Right, they
96.
go by so they're the way the modules in the M3s work for storage, RAM, memory, whatever you want to call it. It's called RAM. But it's instead of the 2 modules as like the standard is they have 2 chips within them, that's the RAM, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They now have 3. So I think they're going by like divisible 3s. AKA like 12, 24, 36, 48.
Because 32 wouldn't be divisible by 3, but 36 is.
See?
Interesting. And 48 is divisible by 3. So that's why. Interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So,
that's actually a nice thing to know. Bravo.
Yeah, there's a tidbit for you.
Yeah. Yeah, but like you were saying, 36 is far more than any normal person would need, even if you have a lot of Chrome tabs open.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Chrome can and will eat it up if you let it.
Yeah.
But
And I think 36 is going to be like plenty for what not
100.
plenty. I think it's going to be enough for what we do
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
this stage. I
Yeah.
think we're making a good move here. And we went with the max chip because price to performance, like value
Hmm.
of the extra, what was it, like $400 or $500 for the max chip?
I think it was somewhere around there. Yeah.
And I think we said the performance was like a third better for 20% more of the cost or something.
It was like almost 50% better in
Yeah.
some areas.
And yeah, in some spots, which that totally justifies it, like in my mind,
I agree. Well, and there were some things that I mean, so this is all based on like articles and Reddit threads, so like don't take this as gospel.
Right.
But the other thing that so when they talk about the max chip versus the pro chip or like all the different levels of chips within the max and the pro line, the numbers that they give you, the base numbers, it's kind of like instead of giving you just like a gigahertz number for how fast the chip is, they give you how many cores you get. So the max gets you, X number of cores of CPU cores and then X number of GPU cores. The thing that they don't really tell you on the Apple website, unless you really dig into the specs, is a couple things. One, not all the cores are created equal. So you have like efficiency cores and performance cores within the same chip. The idea being like it's a laptop. So when you're out on like battery power and you're just like web browsing, you don't need to be firing up the whole like powerhouse of the chip just to be rendering a web page. So it'll use just the economy chips to keep the power usage down and all that stuff. And then when you're in Premiere or whatever, then it fires up all the other performance cores. With the Max chip, you get more performance cores. The ratio of like efficiency cores to performance cores is bigger. So it actually is not just as simple as like, oh, it's more cores. It's like, no, and they're better cores too. Plus, then there's other things that are not like considered CPU or GPU cores, but there's video. There are specific cores that are used just for video encoding, which obviously that's huge for us. And you get, I think they said twice as many of those cores when you jump to the Max chip. So video performance is going to be a lot better. And there were some other little details of like, oh, the other thing is like the Max chip has it has a higher bandwidth memory architecture. So basically you can't get a pro chip with the 128 gigs of RAM. The pro chip just doesn't support it. You have to have the Max chip to be able to support that much RAM.
Yeah.
So there's a couple. Oh, and then there was the monitor thing. That was interesting too.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Where did I see that? I think I was just watching just a random like comparison yada yada, and it was talking about how you can have a M3, regular M3, not an M3 Pro, not M3 Max, regular
so like
M3.
like an M3 Air.
Oh, a regular M3 chip, either in the Pro or in the 14 or 16.
Can you get a regular M3 in a Pro body?
He might have just been comparing the chips, but the M3 chip only supports. I think you're kind of right. I think you're right.
You can get an M3,
but it's only the 14, right? I don't think the 16 has it.
16 only has the Pros, but you can get just a regular M3.
And it only supports one external display. Now, if you go up to the M3 Pro, you get 2 external displays. And if you go to the M3 Max chip, you get up to 4 external displays, which is a testament to the power of the GPU and everything that comes with the M3 Max.
Yeah, it's fascinating that the lower end chips just don't, because we're not talking about like, oh, you get an extra port for like
Mm-hmm.
an extra display. No, it's just like, because it's all Thunderbolt. We have an
Yeah.
HDMI port, but like for the most part, you're going to be plugging in Thunderbolt cables and adapting it to whatever. It doesn't matter how many dongles you plug in. If you have a Pro chip, you're only going to be able to see 2 of those monitors at a time.
Yep.
It just can't or won't drive more than that. And I think the Airs, I think it's only on the brand new Airs that they allowed the Airs to have access to 2 external displays. I think
On an M3 Air.
on an M3 Air, I'm pretty sure. I think
Huh.
that was one of the big like selling points of the M3 when they came out with it. It's a little interesting because like you would think that kind of the more standard way of doing it is just like, hey, as many monitors as you can plug in, it'll do it. And then you kind of figure out what your limit is by like how usable your machine is after
Yeah.
you plug in however many. So yeah, because I have mine hooked up to 2. You have 2 as well? Or
I
do you
just have
one?
one.
You just have
Yep.
one.
Because I had the Air, so there was no need for me to have 2 displays.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I operate mine in clamshell mode. Though now, honestly,
Clamshell.
with a 16-inch display, like my 14-inch before was nothing to sneeze at either, but the 16-inch display is like, that's usable in a desk setup. That's like very usable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I gotta think about that. I might rework my desk to make it so I could have that open and like off to the side or something.
Yeah, because that's how mine's a little. Obviously, my desk is a little differently structured than yours. My laptop is off to the side, outside of my speakers and all the stuff in the center of the desk.
Right.
So, I haven't found the need just yet to go into having like 2 displays or to bounce back and forth between the 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, having the 16-inch, that's a super viable second monitor, you know.
Yeah.
So I might start using it that way.
Yeah. And can we just talk about how remarkably portable the 16-inch is?
Yeah, I mean,
Like for what it is. Don't get me wrong, it's a beast. Like it's big, it's heavy, but it's not unreasonable.
mm-hmm.
Because like I remember back when I was a kid, and I was like in high school and college, the family computer that we had was a MacBook Pro of the era, and that was a 17-inch. They had the 17s. They sold they sold 15-inch and 17-inch MacBook Pros. That was their thing at the time. And that thing, we called it the cafeteria tray because that thing was huge. Like the fact that it was like it was a 17-inch display plus the bezels, which the bezels were significant. And it was incredibly thick. The thing weighed a ton. That thing was a monster. The fact that this is basically that equivalent. Yeah, it's a 16-inch monitor, but like, so it's a 1-inch difference. But it is that like big screen experience. And this thing probably weighs like close to half of what that original 17-inch one did.
Yeah, all the stuff that they packed into this thing so far, like just from having it for less than 12 hours, like it's pretty remarkable how portable this is.
Yeah.
And I love the like rounded rectangular like square edge kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
They've settled on a really nice in between with the industrial design of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of that. And I did have a Pro, but that was like my 2011, third hand one that I got
right
when I first got like a laptop.
Yeah. So is this like your first like legit Mac, really? Like in terms of like
no,
a pro grade Mac?
My M2 Air was awesome.
It absolutely was, but I mean of the Pro lineup.
And
What is
my
considered the Pro lineup?
2019 Air was awesome. No, I had a Pro. I have a 2019 Pro.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a 2019 Pro. The first like touch bar model or whatever.
Oh, the touch bar. I'm
Yeah.
I'm so glad that.
I loved my touch bar.
Oh, I'm so glad to be in a post touch bar era. Like it was fine. It didn't like ever actually no, it did get in my way sometimes. The number of times I would accidentally trigger things by typing, it's just, and I like having a physical escape key. That's one area where I'm like, okay, Apple, you tried to do something cute and it
Yeah.
didn't. Can I give you some kind of interesting? I was just out of curiosity looking. So our current 16-inch laptops clock in at 4.8 pounds,
Oh wow.
which hefty, but not bad. I was looking up that old cafeteria tray, the old 17-inch
Yep.
MacBook Pro of my of my high school. I don't want to say childhood because it was after that. So this is the late 2011 version. I think ours was earlier than that though. 17-inch MacBook Pro. This thing weighed 6.6 pounds.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
That is huge.
Yeah, it is a significant difference. Also, hold on, what's the thickness here?
Oh boy.
It looks like it is about 0.6 inches thick for ours. The old cafeteria tray, 0.98.
Oh my gosh.
So a solid inch thick.
That's literally a cafeteria tray.
Yep, 15.5 inches wide, 10.5 inches deep, an inch thick.
Wow.
And to give you even more context, what part of the reason it was so thick was because it still had like all the normal I/O, not just like here's a bunch of Thunderbolt ports and you're good. So this thing had the old MagSafe. It had gigabit Ethernet built into it. It had a FireWire 800 port, 3 USB 2.0s, 1 Thunderbolt port, and an express card slot.
Oh my gosh.
It still had an express card slot.
Maybe it was needed,
I guess. I mean, I think that might have been the last one that they ever made with an express card slot, because I do not remember anything else having that.
Yeah.
I do remember playing with the little door though, because it was like spring loaded. It's fun to like kind of stick your finger in there.
That's like ADHD, Cam.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I think I'm definitely like, I got a little bit of that in me.
You got something, huh?
I got some. Oh, there's something going on.
Oh
with me for
boy.
Sure. Yeah, definitely not 100% neurotypical, but
I would hate to take that test. Let's just start there.
So apparently, so my wife Kate, she actually she took an ADHD test because it was kind of like you, where we were like, yeah, we know, like she's aware, and she like but never got officially diagnosed with it. So she took the test, and it basically like, she said it was terrible because it basically is designed to like break your focus and like kind of essentially like, apparently most people give up. It's like just a constant like repetitive memory thing, just over and over and over again, and they basically do it like for an hour straight or something.
Oh my gosh.
And they don't tell you like, if you want to stop, tell us and we'll stop. But they're kind of expecting you to just be like, I'm done, and just stop at some point in the middle.
What the heck?
So they're just like, depending on when you break is effectively what it is. So yeah, I think the testing would be, I don't think you need to bother, really.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I won't.
Good. I'm glad. So yeah, that's been our day of picking those up and starting to get those rolled out. Again, have not done any heavy lifting with them as of yet.
No, but I'm excited to.
Excited to. Very excited to. Because I had a piece that we were working on this past week that was a quick turn piece, and the export took about 20 minutes. The final full quality export took about 20 minutes every time. And I'm curious to take that exact same project file, output it again at the same settings, just see what the time difference
See what
is.
the time is. Yeah. What do you think it'll be?
It might be under 5 minutes. Like, we'll see.
That'd be pretty good.
It will be insane. I
That
would
be
not
pretty
be
good.
surprised at all.
My PC was typically like not 1-for-1. It was like 75% of the total like feed, if that makes sense. Like
So if it was
a 5-minute video, it would be like 3.5 minute long render.
So you were going faster than real time, excuse me.
Oh yeah, she was cooking.
Yeah.
I have to remember that was like a $5,000 or $6,000 PC. So,
oh sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, like, what was the? I mean, we've talked about this a little bit, but I don't think we've talked about this on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Walk me through a little bit of your thought process of why you decided to, because we had said like you basically decided you wanted to switch to Mac fully for video stuff.
Yep.
And we knew that like your Air, we were like, okay, you've got the Air right now, and then we will upgrade you to something more powerful one day. And then that day came. So we knew that the Air was not going to be your be all end all. But what was your reasoning for going from a Windows machine that was extremely high powered to the Mac ecosystem as a whole?
I grew up a little bit, and you might be like, oh, yeah, right? I grew up a little bit and realized that I was playing video games too much, and that the Mac ecosystem would benefit me more in the sense of our workflow stuff. Literally, I have an iPhone, an iPad, an Apple Watch, like that whole integration.
There is something to be said for
thing.
that, yeah.
It's pretty nice, right? And then like when we were recording stuff, like I would record stuff on my phone, or like we were doing the podcast with my phone when we were doing it in person, and I couldn't get the file to my Windows machine, my PC.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't go there. Like it wouldn't transfer directly from the phone, it wouldn't transfer from a drive to the computer. It wouldn't do any of that. So
AirDrop alone is a wonderful thing.
Huge. Yep. So, yeah, and now we're here where I was rocking the M2 Air for a little bit. Now we're rocking the M3 Max a little bit. Pro Max, we're out here.
Heck yeah. Yeah, and like the Mac ecosystem is, I'm a Mac guy, like have been from birth, basically. Grew up in a Mac family. We exclusively had Mac things. I have a Windows machine for gaming.
Yep.
I did edit on a Windows machine over COVID.
Yeah.
When I was working remotely for Discovery, I was working on a Windows machine because I needed something more powerful than the laptop that at the time I had.
Yep.
Through work, so we went to a Windows machine, and it was a powerful machine. It was capable of handling the workload. That wasn't the issue. But
yeah,
kind of like how Windows is like, you're just going to have a better experience gaming. More stuff is going to work and all that if you're on a Windows machine. You just have a better experience, and the support is better if for creative type work, especially video, I think, on a Mac. When you think about like, okay, you think about things like ProRes, and a lot of these other video formats that like ProRes is kind of like the de facto standard for broadcast stuff. Does it work on Windows? Yes, but it's not perfect. And similar thing for like Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is like maybe the greatest thing ever.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty amazing. The fact that you can just like have a daisy chain of this super high bandwidth stuff and just have like, I have one cable at my desk. When I plug my laptop into that cable, it is getting power. It is getting dual 4K monitors out. It's connecting to my audio interface for all my speakers. It's connecting to multiple network things, for both including a gigabit connection for regular network and a 10 gigabit connection to my server. All that through one cable.
Yeah.
And it's
literally.
not even like, I think it's maybe using like less than half of the total capabilities of that cable, of that the bandwidth of that cable, because isn't it like 40 gigabits of a second or
That
something like
sounds
that?
right. Yeah.
It's insane. Now my Windows machine that I worked on over COVID had I got a motherboard that had Thunderbolt built in, supported Thunderbolt natively, and flip a coin if it worked at any given moment. Which is so weird to me because everyone thinks like, I think a lot of people assume Thunderbolt is an Apple like thing.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah.
Thunderbolt is an Intel technology.
Yeah. It is like a technology for all the platforms.
Yeah, Apple doesn't even own it. They just were like one of the first to adopt it, which I find so funny because it was an Intel technology. Apple doesn't even run Intel processors anymore. And they still support Thunderbolt better than like any Windows machine out there that has an Intel processor.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they managed to make that work so
Well,
flaky.
you have to think like Intel was Apple's main source for like a lot of their stuff when
Yeah.
it came to components and chips and processors and all that stuff forever, right?
Yeah.
And like
Not ever. I remember when it was PowerPC.
yeah, PowerPC, yeah, yeah. So, but like they are embedded into the history of like, you know, the Lightning port, the Thunderbolt port, the USB-C transition. Like, so they've been working on this. Like, what was 2020 was the last Intel chips.
I think
21,
so. Yeah,
something
something
like
around
that.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so probably like 2020, 2021. That they've been working on Thunderbolt technology way before that. Had
Yeah.
to have been. You know, like they didn't just think, "Oh, you know what? This works. Let's do it." So, you
Oh no,
know,
Thunderbolt. When did the first Macs with Thunderbolt come out? It was a long time ago.
yeah. That's a great question.
First Mac with Thunderbolt.
Were they always the USB-C?
No,
They were the weird connector, weren't they?
It was a mini DisplayPort connector. It was in the 2011 MacBook Pro.
I don't know what the first laptop like. That's a good. I'm gonna do this search here. Let's think here. The first laptop to be like a USB-C hub, basically.
Oh, that like didn't have like any other I/O. I mean, I think it would have been. It was definitely a Mac because Apple. I mean, as per usual, Apple like went to this like next era of I/O before anyone was
The
really ready for it.
12-inch MacBook in 2015. They were the first company to include the Type-C port on a laptop.
Wow. On a MacBook.
On a MacBook in 2015.
That was their like bog standard one. That was like, it's not thin enough to be an Air and it's not powerful enough to be a Pro. Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean I remember because I still do watch Apple events pretty regularly, but especially like in that era when I was in like getting into this video stuff, getting into like I was in high school and college and all that. I would froth at the mouth looking at all this stuff. And I remember when Thunderbolt came out, it was like, whoa, like this is so much better than FireWire.
Oh man,
And then
good old FireWire.
Good old FireWire. I'll always love that thing. I have a very fond memory for FireWire 800 especially. FireWire 800 was where it was at. I remember I had a hard drive that my parents got me from Fry's, which was sort of like a Micro Center thing on the West
You were
Coast.
telling me about Fry's.
Yeah, very similar vibe. And it was I think it was a Maxtor hard drive that was like the size of like a lunchbox. And it was 750 gigs.
Oh my god.
And it had FireWire 800. And that was my video vault. That was what I edited off of for a really long time. That thing was heavy. That thing was loud. But it worked. Kept all my stuff on it.
That was the one thing I remember about my old Pro, my 2011 one. I think it was a Pro. Anyways, it was massive, so it had to have been Were they classified
Probably.
Pro at that point?
Yeah, they've had MacBook Pros
For
for
a
a
long
really
time.
long time.
So it was huge, heavy, and loud. The fans were just ridiculous on those things.
Oh yeah. I am curious to like get this thing up to temp, the new M3 Max, and see how loud the fans go. My understanding is that because it's a 16-inch, it has a better cooling system, bigger thermal envelope, so it won't be as loud. But I'm excited to compare it to my old M1. Especially, so the thing that makes me think of it is we had a multi-day shoot this past week.
Yes, we have to have a little recap here.
We do. So I'll start with the end, how our second day of shooting ended.
Yeah.
We can talk a little bit about what the rest of the stuff we did was. So this was a very quick turnaround project on the post-production side. Basically, we had 2 days of shooting, and then we had 1 day for post. So it was like we finished on Wednesday night. We had Thursday to go through multiple rounds of revision, and then Friday morning we had to deliver this thing for air. Really crazy turnaround. You were here most of the day Thursday. We were kind of like tag teaming stuff back and forth. But the client had someone writing the script for us, which was super helpful and like necessary to get it done as quickly as we did. So to make it so that the scriptwriter had the stuff that she needed, we were providing 2 things to her. One was just transcripts, which easy enough, quick to process, easy to upload and send. But the other was screeners for the interviews. And because we're shooting Blackmagic B-RAW 6K, we were not going to upload all of that.
Why not, Cam? How long would it have taken?
Longer than it took to just compress the stuff down. That's for darn sure. But it still took a decent amount of time to generate proxy files for us to upload as screeners, because we shot a fair amount of stuff. It's a full day, 2 cameras, it's a lot of stuff. So we're getting ready to drive back from DC. It's like a little over an hour drive after we've wrapped our second day of shooting. And I'm like, okay, I got to get this stuff out like as soon as possible. And in my head, I started thinking like, hold on, I'm about to just drive home and be sitting in traffic for an hour and 15 minutes. That's time that could be spent generating proxy files.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was, and I have a picture of this, we should post this on social somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
I took my laptop, my M1 MacBook Pro, set it up in the passenger seat of my car, plugged into the hard drive. I didn't bother transferring stuff off. I just plugged in the hard drive that the Blackmagic had been recording to. And queued up, I opened up a Premiere project, dumped the stuff in, queued up proxy file generation, and let it sit there for the whole drive home. My battery might have been able to handle that, but I didn't trust that it would. So I had one of our 99-watt V-mount batteries, which have a USB-C port on them, plugged in so that it was powering the laptop.
Which was a great idea.
And it ended up being just about perfect because it kept my laptop battery at 100% for like an hour and 15 minutes all the way home. Kept my charge level at 100%
while doing proxies.
So like full compression. And then when I looked after I got home, I was like, okay, how much did I have left on the V-mount battery? That thing was fully charged. It went down to 4%.
Which is wild.
I mean, that thing can run our camera rig, including like a monitor and like, Magic Fizz motors and all this stuff. It can run that rig for 4 hours without breaking a sweat. Or 1 hour of...
And it's like just bigger than our phone, Like,
if you squish it down and kind of thicken it out,
Like it's a bit just about as big as your wallet, normal
wallet. It's like the size of your fit. It's like the size of it's smaller than your fist.
It's crazy to be able to do all that.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible how energy dense it is. But the reason I thought of that was because we were talking about fan speed. I was driving home and it was a hot day. I had my AC cranked. My laptop was drowning out the AC.
That's wild.
It was just sitting in the passenger seat, just like just blasting the fan. So I'm excited to see how much more efficient this guy, the new guy,
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, only if we had it last week, you know.
If only.
That would have
But
been crazy to like. All right, new project, big project, quick turnaround time, new computer. Here we go.
wouldn't have been the worst
Yeah.
idea, frankly.
Yeah. Well,
But
we got more coming in the pipeline, so we'll have more opportunity to test these bad girls out. But
oh, absolutely.
so we had a pretty big week last week of shoots and meetings, and post was a little crazy, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think that was the craziest thing that happened last week.
Yeah.
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 We had a death in the family.
Well, we are experiencing a death in the family.
No, it's dead. It's dead.
Yeah. You
The
think so?
USB-C port's dead.
Well, the port is
Port
dead.
is
Yes, this
gone.
is true. Yeah, we're talking about your camera.
My camera. So my old faithful OG BMP CC 6K, like, just it has met its match. It got used way too much in the past 3 months that it was like, all right, it's time for me to retire. So the
Apparently
USB-C
so.
port said, all right, I'm out of here. And
Yep.
it works. It detects, and it'll detect the hard drives and stuff, and it recorded on our first shoot day. Like it
It did.
recorded to the G drive, but it was having errors with my T7s. So that's why I switched over to the G drive. I was like, okay, this is weird. I can't format my T7s. Something odd is happening here.
Yeah, because it would just like hang.
Yeah, and it wouldn't
It
go
would, like,
anywhere.
the whole system would freeze if you tried to format the drive.
And then I plugged in the G drive, and the G drive did great. It recorded everything on the first location.
Yep.
Nothing changed from us packing up our super really cool wagon that was the highlight of the week, probably, was using the wagon and utilizing it, right? Behind the scenes stuff coming soon.
Oh yeah.
But we go to the second location, which isn't too far away, right? A decent drive to get there. We got there on time and everything before everything started. And I go to hit record, and I get my little flashing exclamation point with the G drive, the same rig I was using the whole time, nothing changed. And Cam ran to the car, got another drive, same issue. You hit the record, it just doesn't do anything.
We tried swapping out everything. Like we ended up plugging in the drive that I had been using.
Yep.
Because we were 2 cameras for the first part of the day. And my camera recorded, my 6K Pro was using my T7 and my cable, because like the cable is also a factor here. Like, is the cable like dying, or is it too slow, or whatever? So we were using my drive and my cable, which has been working flawlessly for like a year plus, 2 years even. Plug that exact same thing into your system, and it was having nothing.
Yeah, didn't like it. Didn't do anything. It detected the drive, but it detected the amount of space on the drive for the codec that we were on, and the frame rate, and all that. And it's like, okay, cool. Press record, flashing exclamation point.
Yeah. Which, when I was looking at the footage back after I was ingesting stuff, I pulled stuff because that drive had like the stuff from the first part of the day. So I pulled that on, and then I noticed there were all these extra little clips at the very end. So it was actually recording for a half a second. It would actually write a file to the drive, and then it would just die.
Yeah.
And when it did that, the drive was actually like disconnecting. Like, it would act as if the drive had, like, you'd yanked the cord out of it. And yeah, it was very, very weird. Now, not 100% out of the blue.
No, because this is this error / issue has happened before, but it wasn't with the USB-C drive or the USB-C port. It was when I was shooting with my dad's stuff, trying to use the CFast to SSD conversion thing that I spent like $200 on versus getting a USB-C like T7 or something. But yeah, when we were at the first location, it was doing that error, and I was like, okay, this is weird. I tried to format it, and it just hung in the formatting. The G drive worked flawlessly, which to me, I was like, okay, the G drive is my third drive for a reason. You know, they still work good, but like, it's not the one that I want to be relying on. You know,
it's an older drive.
Yeah.
It's
and it worked for that. You said all the recordings were there and everything, and we wound up throwing in. Luckily, you had your little backup SD card. Throw that into my pocket, and we figured out the SD card slot doesn't like when you click it in, doesn't click in. It just bounces back out. So you have to shut the door on it and hope that keeps the connection there.
Just like Indiana Jones swapping the idol with the bag of sand.
Yep, just like, yep. That worked great. Obviously, we were limited to 4K DCI, you know, which is fine. It worked. It all looked good. 6K, 4K.
Yeah, it worked great.
Yeah.
6K is more for us to have more flexibility. So. Yeah, they watched it in 1080, and like honestly, like 6K is more to give us flexibility in post, than like there is really a big quality difference, in my opinion. So yeah, it ended up working out fine. And yeah, so because oddly enough, I think I might have talked about this on the show before, but so there was a wedding that I was recording for a friend in Seattle, and it was an outdoor wedding in the middle of a heat wave. And I was using a hard drive that was like, it was an M2 drive in like a little chassis, like a little small rig thing. And it worked well for like the beginning part of the day. And then at one point we were in the middle of like the main event, and suddenly it did the same thing where it like just errored out and the drive just unmounted. And I couldn't get it to like even recognize that the drive was there anymore. In that case, that was a heating issue. Because like I put my hand on the drive and it was like you could fry an egg on that thing. So I think that chassis did not handle heat dispersion well. We were in a hot environment, and it was just kind of a perfect storm. But I had that same SD card, and like, because when I originally got this camera, I was like, okay, so I've got like, I'm recording to hard drives, that's all great, but I want to have the option of like, if a hard drive dies on me or something terrible happens, I want to have something that I can be like, I can record the clips I need, just like an emergency, like, oh shoot, this is my emergency backup. And so that's why I have that 128 gig card in there. And in the case of that wedding, that was exactly that. I did the same thing that we did for this past shoot. I just switched over to 4K, recorded to the card. Can't record a ton, but we were able to record enough. And then, the next day we brought extra SD cards and just rolled straight into those.
Yeah, we had a fun Micro Center trip and saw that, what was it, 640 gig CFast Type B was $840 or something like that.
This is why I don't like CFast, man.
I did not think that. I'm glad we didn't go that route, but I did not think they were that expensive.
They are.
I knew they were expensive. Like I was expecting like a terabyte to be like $400, $500, but
oh gosh, hold on. What would be a terabyte? I'm gonna look this up.
Oh boy,
what is a terabyte CFast? If you can even get a terabyte. Let's see, 1 terabyte CFast. I feel like you probably can't. Yeah, you can get a 1 terabyte one. Now it depends on how fast, because this is the thing, is like, people hear SD card and they're like, oh, you get a you can get a 128 SD card for, $20.
Mhm.
They're cheap, and it's like, well, yes, but when you start looking at what cards can actually support writing 4K video,
Yeah. Yep.
you will find that those cards will not handle it. So you need the higher class, and it's not even just class. It's very confusing because it's like you need a class 10, but a class 10 is not enough. You need
Yep.
a class 10, and then there's an icon that's like a V90. V90 is what you need for 4K. I honestly have no idea what the V90 means. All I know is that that is the badge you need to be able to record stuff. So if you look on B&H, they actually have a 1 terabyte CFast 2.0 by Angelbird for $700.
Oh, Angelbird. That's the one that that's the company that I was sending you stuff. Yeah?
Yeah. Angelbird makes SD cards
Yeah.
too. And they're on the list of for Blackmagic's approved
Yeah.
stuff.
Which is crazy because I sent you again, yeah, I was on their website and they were approved Blackmagic. It says can shoot 4K plus is what they call it, 4K plus.
Mm-hmm. So it's probably the DCI,
right? Yeah. So I don't know how they do it, but I think I sent you a set of 2 128 gig cards or something like that,
mm-hmm.
and it was like $300 or something. I was like, hold on. that's I think it was actually less than that. I think it was like $200.
It was less than that, yeah, because we got 2 new cards, and I think we paid about $350.
Yeah.
So it's not it's not like a huge. It's not like, oh my god, this is a $20 card. It's still expensive, but So I guess Angelbird must be I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they just don't mark things up as much as someone like SanDisk does.
They're SanDisk has ran the SD card world ever since its infancy, and we're going to change that.
Pretty much. Can confirm, though, if anyone is wondering. So the SanDisk card that we got, it's the SanDisk, again, there's it's an Extreme, but just because it says SanDisk Extreme does not mean it can do 4K. You need that V90 badge in the corner. But that is not on the official Blackmagic approved list. However, we can confirm that they work great. And they're readily available. That was the main thing, is could we have saved a few bucks by getting something off of B&H or whatever? Absolutely, but we needed something that day.
Yeah, and we walked in. So we ordered it on Micro Center beforehand, but we could have just walked in and there was
could have, yeah,
shelves and walls of SD cards.
Yeah. The one that I have that I use for my camera as an emergency backup is a Sony Tough series. So it's actually not a SanDisk. But that one is on the approved list. But very few people actually stock that in brick and mortar. So so that we had as per usual with every shoot, there's always some hiccup that you got to roll with the punches on and figure out.
You have to be prepared. Yeah.
Yes, you do. And this is belt, suspenders, this is why I bring multiple drives with me, and why I've got an SD card in there too, and all that stuff. I have, at some point, you just kind of experience getting burned by things failing enough.
Yeah.
That you're just I am not going to give you the opportunity. You fail? Fine. I got 3 backups. I know exactly what to do.
If I don't know exactly what to do, I'll figure it out,
Yeah. That is the biggest. If you're going to go out on a shoot, that is the biggest thing. If you can just have the confidence to be yeah, I can figure this out. Something goes wrong, I got to figure something out. I can figure it out.
Yeah. But so rest in peace USB-C port on my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. Yeah. And there are no forums out there saying that they have this same issue or related issues, so rest in peace.
It's a weird
Yeah.
one. It's a very weird one.
Works
But
but doesn't work.
works but doesn't work, so you can still shoot for now. We at first we were literally talking before this because we usually use our cameras as I'm using my camera as a webcam right now, plugged in through USB-C. You have been using
Yep.
yours the same way. And we were literally talking earlier about like, man, it's so weird that like you can still use it as a webcam
That
though.
it still detects on my computer as a webcam.
Yeah.
And spoke
And
too soon is the
yeah.
result of that one.
Yeah, it no longer works. So at the very least it's being
Yeah.
consistent in its
Yeah.
failure. So all that to say, we may have pre-ordered a Pixis.
May.
We may
We may
be
have.
awaiting delivery. They pushed the delivery date to sometime in August, so it's going to be a little bit longer, and poor Brian is going to have to limp along.
Yeah. It's fine. This was inevitable
Yeah.
though. Like we've been having the debate, not even debate. We've been having the discussion
Mm-hmm.
since the launch or like the announcement. See, look, the EF mount one still says end of July, but
Yeah,
the
because
same thing with the REPL mount. I can confirm Leica L mount is August 13th though.
So the L mount is just taking longer then. So maybe we'll get it early. We'll see.
Hey,
They're being. I mean, this is the weird thing. Like the date has shifted multiple times because it was going to be June, and then we looked and it said B&H said July, end of July, and then one of them now says a specific day, like August 13th, like a
Yeah.
specific day. So I don't know, but yeah. All right. Before we wrap things up, we skipped it last week because we were short on time. But what is the one thing that we have learned or realized this week? What is the big thing
So
that we have
there's a
improved in
one
ourselves this week?
thing that we didn't touch on, but it definitely was a big part of this shoot was another purchase we made, which were diffusion flags for
Yes.
the sun and the light. And we got this
Yes.
really, really, really awesome kit that we didn't know if it was going to make it in on time, but it totally did. What did we order?
With like an hour.
Yeah,
to
we
spare.
ordered it on Friday and got it on Tuesday or something like that. And B&H was closed on Thursday or something, so you couldn't order anything until Friday. So
Friday was the soonest we could place the order. Yeah.
Getting the stuff on Tuesday is like incredible. It's like almost Amazon level, you know? Like,
oh yeah.
But that was probably the most crucial piece of equipment we had next to our cameras for the shoot.
Yeah.
Like if we didn't have any sort of diffusion, we would have been cooked. Like that the shoot would have been it would have looked like trash compared to what it did, you know? Like
yeah.
You were on full 6 stops of ND and before we put the diffuser up, like we were just blasted. And I was on I could boost my little Mirage ND filter to 9 stops, and like it was just like a stop too much. Like I take it down to 8 stops, like it was like perfect with no diffusion. Yeah. So we were able to definitely take the sun and the natural light and manipulate it in a way that benefited us greatly. So if you don't have any diffusion or flags or anything like that, that was like the biggest, coolest thing that we had. Now, side note, if we would have known that there was going to be 2 or 3 people in each interview thing, you know, we would have got bigger ones. So the kit that we had that we got were the 2 foot by 3 foot, I think they were.
I believe so, yeah.
The second day on our final shoot location, we stacked the highest diffusion with the next level down diffusion on 2 different C-stand clamps and arms and stuff like on two separate stands. But if we would have just had an idea of, hey, there could be 2 or 3 people in each interview, we probably would have already bought bigger flags. That was the only like issue I feel like we ran into, but we still made it. We still made it work for what we had.
Oh yeah. No, we definitely made it work. And I think it was also like I don't even think it was a question of we weren't thinking about multiple people being in the frame at once. I think it was just we didn't have a concept of how big of a flag gives you how much usable space
Valid,
of
yeah.
diffusion. And we now know. And so like for single shots, it's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think something like a 4-foot square would be really ideal.
And the flags weren't that expensive.
No, it was an impact kit. It gave us 5 collapsible frames with varying levels of diffusion and I don't know what the term would be. It's the equivalent of neutral density. It's like a black mesh, so it doesn't diffuse the light, it just knocks it down. Plus a couple of like interesting little like spot flags.
Like mini flags.
Yeah. But it was on sale at B&H. It was literally a case of like I saw it in their like sale section. I was like, "Oh, this could be really helpful."
And it's been something that we've talked about was like direct sunlight, outdoor shoot. Like it would be beneficial if we had this, blah, blah, blah. And we had a jerry-rigged option with my diffusion and my T-bar that I've never opened up and like all that. But I'm definitely...
Which might still... We should definitely crack that open and see if we can get that to work for a bigger option.
Yeah, I have like ideas in my head of how it can work. Like we could totally take the diffusion sheet and make it like a booth above a person, like a booth with one side, like a 90-degree thing. Yeah. So there's probably ways that could still be useful for us. But bigger flag
100%.
would be awesome, or just bigger, like the diffusion panel I sent you on Amazon with like the flexible stuff. I think it's 4x6 or 6x6 or something like that. And it's like $250. Like,
yeah,
super useful.
Yeah. Bottom line, flags are great. Get flags.
Yes, get flag.
And the smaller ones are going to be really good. Like, I think for being outdoors, bigger ones would be helpful, but in a more controlled, like, studio environment, I think the 2x3 foot is a really nice size, and it collapses down really nicely. It's lovely. I think the thing that I'm going to go with for this, for, like, the something new this week is actually going to be the new bags that we got, which I'm not going to take full credit for.
Why not?
And I think at some point we should do like no, Porter on Porter Family 5 on TikTok. He's our
JP,
he's the
baby.
JP. He is insane. If you guys don't watch him or follow him, please do. He is incredible. And his enthusiasm for everything is just infectious.
Yeah, and that's the reason we bought these things.
Right. So he did a video just a week ago maybe. And he was showing off this new camera bag that he got, which was not a camera bag. It is actually a DeWalt contractor bag. It's part of their Tough System 2.0. Yep. It's kind of a hybrid where it looks like a soft like nylon. It's like a big tool bag, like not just a regular like big tool bag, size of a Pelican basically, like a Pelican case. But it's got like a hard plastic shell on the bottom, and it's still very rigid. Despite the fact that it's all fabric on the way up. Big central compartment, side compartments, connections for clips and carabiners and all this stuff everywhere. And he showed how he added a little bit of foam to the main compartment, and he was using it as a camera bag for his red Komodo. So, he's trusting his Komodo.
And he took the Komodo out of that bag with what looked like a massive, was it a zoom lens? I think it was a zoom lens. It was a massive
lens. It was a big lens, had the monitor on it. Yep. Like this rig was fully assembled.
And he just pulled it out of his bag, and it was essentially ready to shoot. Like,
yep.
That's always been my thing, is like, I hate the idea of having to put a rig or a kit together on site.
I have always prioritized safety of the equipment over convenience once I get to the location. So everything like breaks down, and like you've seen my Pelican rig, it's like it's got the pick and pluck foam, everything has a place. But I have more and more, especially doing more event coverage and like shoots where timing is critical. The longer you spend having to like put stuff together,
Yeah.
and plus you have to like find a location to do it. So like this past weekend, I was doing a shoot and I was literally just building my rig in the trunk of my car.
Yeah.
Like, not ideal. And it took like a solid 10 minutes to get everything pieced together. Whereas with this thing, you can have your rig basically fully kitted out. Like you're able to have your Mirage on your thing with the rails and the battery and the monitor and everything just already hooked up and ready to go. And then you just drop it in this bag. The one modification we made, and Porter suggested this too, was adding some extra foam to the main inner compartment. Which I had some extra 2-foot square sound panels. Just like the like kind of corrugated foam acoustic panels. Cut those up, lined the inner pocket with them, and it's working great.
Yeah. I took it this weekend to a live stream. I had mine in one bag, yours in the other bag, and it was so much more convenient than a Pelican, trying to roll it through the grass or carry it, the weight.
It's lighter.
I was going to say the weight of a Pelican itself probably doesn't compare to the weight of the whole kit in the bag with all the stuff. Like, now granted, a Pelican is probably the safest bet for traveling and your kit and like all that kind of stuff. But
for sure,
the convenience and, matter of fact, like the safety of my rig in this bag is worth, keeping it together and traveling with it like that. Keeping that kit all rigged up and traveling with it just dropped in the bag like that.
Yeah.
And the amount of pockets that there are.
That's the thing I was going to say. You can fit more in these things than you can in a Pelican. I was able to, with the way I've got mine rigged out right now, I've got a full-length XLR, a full-length HDMI, I've got clamps, I've got a roll of gaff tape, I've got a clapper in there, and you can have multiple, if you want to have multiple lenses, you can have them in there. We've got some really cool little wraps, like cushioned wraps, you can kind of wrap up the lenses and keep them protected. It's a really nice thing. A Pelican has wheels, so like that is one thing. You have to carry these things, but they're easy to carry. They got big long shoulder straps. So I think like a Pelican, I would probably, like we've talked a little bit, our Pelicans will probably be converted into something that will carry like, this is a lens case.
Lens case, like lenses, extra parts, like,
stuff that needs the extra or benefits from the extra support and benefits from having things be super like individually compartmentalized.
And it could be good for like, we'll still have the 6K OG as a C camera when the Pixis comes. So lenses, components, parts, maybe light bags or drone bag or a box or something can fit into this Pelican, but then the 6K OG can just live there, with its little SD card.
I might look
glory.
at getting some of the I might look at getting replacing the pick and pluck foam that I have in there with some of the more customized Velcro ones, so that we can kind of adapt as needed. And like if we were to ever go on like an extended trip or like a plane, if I needed to like check my gear into a plane, Pelican is the only way.
100%. Yep.
Because that thing, like, the plane could run the case over and the stuff inside would be fine. But,
maybe not a Boeing because of the plane might blow up. We don't know.
Oh, no, the Pelican would still be fine.
Yeah, the Pelican would be okay, but the plane wouldn't.
The plane would not be.
The wheels would fall off or something.
Exactly. Yeah, that's too real.
Not flying this year.
Gonna be. But we'll see.
Good luck.
Fingers crossed. But yeah, check out the DeWalt bags. They've got them at Home Depot. They're like $115 for a comparable like purpose. But like, is it made to be a camera bag? No. Is it any different than one of these like purpose-built camera bags? I would argue no, not really.
Yeah.
But it costs like a third as much.
Literally.
Yeah.
So
cool. Yeah. A lot of exciting stuff going on. A lot of new equipment. for a lot of new projects that are coming up. We're super excited to keep sharing things with you guys. Make sure to give us a follow on all of the Purple Donut Studio socials, because we're posting more and more behind the scenes content there, and we've got a lot more to come. So if you want to be aware of what we're doing,
we just started, so it's like we already have all this content, all these things, and all this like ready to roll and go. So just jump on the train and join in on the journey.
Absolutely. The journey is just getting started, and we're very excited to have you guys along for the ride. So thank you so much for watching and listening and subscribing. Peace. See you next week.
Bye.